man, it's just this whole season has been so darn cool, and hopefully we got more to come.
Yeah, hopefully they do have more to come. Good afternoon, everybody. That was Aiden Hutchinson here on this afternoon live on Wednesday, December the 8th. We've got 23 days, if you're counting today, in the rest of this year to New Year's Eve when Michigan is going to play Georgia. I'm here to talk a little bit about Michigan. We have lots to talk about with the Wolverines on the football field, recruiting, and on the hardwood as the Wolverines, Juwan Howard's crew was in Lincoln last night, opening up against Nebraska. I'll talk about that. We'll hear from the Frank Broyles Award winner coming up shortly. Also, a guy that is on the award circuit. Who knows how many awards he's going to end up polling in, but I got some sound from Aiden Hutchinson. I'll talk about that Michigan defense recruiting spotlight, memorabilia minute, and the Wolverines basketball game last night. So let's get right to it here, and we'll start with Josh Gaddis. Now here's Josh Gaddis goes out and wins the Broyles Award, given to the top assistant in college football. And they've been handing this thing out since 96. Jim Herman, Michigan defensive coordinator, 97, won it. Gaddis wins it last night. The last two winners, I looked. Last year, it was Steve Sarkisian for Alabama. Alabama won the national championship. The year before that, it was Joe Brady from LSU, their offensive coordinator. They won the national championship. So there you go. See if we can get 3 in a row. For Josh Gaddis. But, I think about Gaddis when he came in, people, speed and space, and he had Shea Patterson who got hurt. The first snap is Gaddis as an offensive coordinator. And, he was bringing in Dylan McCaffrey in the first quarter and all these different things going on here. And then we had last year, a frustrating year for everybody. We know that. And then this year. Now that the season that we have seen 13 games, we know enough we can look back where you're like, when did you think that maybe this offense was going to be different? The offense I thought was going to be different in the second game against Washington, but I wasn't sure that it was going to be better or a championship offense. But I knew that when Josh Gaddis said before the season that, they're going to commit, or they really got to get running the ball. And, that sounded very Michigan, could sound like almost any coach, but certainly a Michigan coach, Michigan offensive coach, talking about we're going to run the football. And, for a lot of people, myself included, it's like, what's Josh Gaddis saying here? It sounds like just a coaching cliche here. Talking about getting back to running the ball, but they went out there. The identity of Michigan's offense this year, they had a lot of big plays. And they were a ground and pound team. And you go all the way back to the Western game. Now that was where Ronnie Bell got hurt. Ronnie Bell had a big time touchdown, a long touchdown in that game. I wrote some of the big plays down. You just think about some of those. Ronnie Bell, 76 yards. Dalen Baldwin on the J.J. McCarthy throwback. That was a 69-yard touchdown. A.J. Henning had a 74-yard run. Big plays in that first game. Second game, they ran the ball for 345 yards against Washington. I was like, okay, they've got something going on the ground here, but can they throw the ball? Because you're going to have to be able to do that if you're going to win in the Big Ten, and certainly if you want to be a factor anywhere else. But I go to the low point of the year for Michigan, which was not the Michigan State game, but they lost. It was the Rutgers game. They scored 20 points in the first half, but they didn't score any in the second half, and they had 4 3-and-outs in the second half. But the first 4-and-out they had was a drive that they actually started in Rutgers territory, and they faced a 3rd and 13. And do you know what happened on that 3rd and 13? They ran the ball up the middle. Like, there are a lot of people looking at that saying, "Are you kidding me?" I think about Kirk Ferentz in the Big Ten championship game. That second long, 3rd and long. I was like, man, if that was Michigan, I'd be all over the coach. And I know coming out to go back in that Washington game, Michigan ran it so much against Washington in that game. And you remember it was a pretty close game. Was it 10-0, I think, at the half? And they came out and said, well, they got to throw the ball. I mean, this is too close for comfort, and they didn't. They came out running it, but they were so effective that quickly got put in the back of your mind. And, the criticisms about running the ball, didn't happen as much when you're running it and having success. It's like when you're shooting threes, like, this team's settling for too many outside shots. When they're going in, it's like, woo, it's great. Going and, so I go to the Wisconsin game where in the first quarter, this is one of the big plays of the year. I don't know if it's an underrated player of the year or not, but I remember when the time it happened, Michigan had showed that they could run the ball and, the defense was playing well, but, this was going to be a test. This is Wisconsin. This is on the road. This is a team that humiliated Michigan in their own stadium the year before. And the year before that, you remember that one? That was the Jonathan Taylor, and that game was over at the half. So the flea flicker to Cornelius Johnson in the first quarter of that Wisconsin game, that was a little something. I think I don't know if it unlocked the offense or it felt like they had something going there with the run game off of, it's not play action, but a flea flicker. It's essentially like that. You're using everybody to go after the running back, you throw it back, and the flea flicker was important to Michigan this year. They used it a couple times. So the run game, big plays, identity, all of that, and that gets you into some of the Michigan State game, 93-yarder to Andrell Anthony. They had the 47-yard big play to all the lightning bolt in that Penn State game. 77-yard when they played Maryland went to Donovan Edwards when he had that breakout game with the 10 catches and everything else. And then, the Ohio State game, you go through there, they had some big plays. They had a 37-yarder to Cornelius Johnson, and then they had that 55-yard run by Corum. Big plays and a ground and pound mentality for Josh Gaddis, who was saying after the Big Ten championship game that, that his team wasn't ready, for some of the stuff that he put in against, I don't know, Penn State, but certainly Ohio State and against Iowa. They grew into that. And, then he sprung it there in the last two games, things that they had been working on. Obviously, what did they say, 7-8 weeks? They'd been working on that double pass with Donovan Edwards before they launched it in the Big Ten title game. And all of that. And then in that Big Ten title game, there you go. A more big plays, 67-yarder for Corum. And then the double pass was 75 yards. Really, the identity of Josh Gaddis's offense this year was ground and pound and then get those big plays. And, you want to know how you win the assistant coach of the year? That's how you do it. You win the Big Ten and you establish an identity. They ended up, I think, number 2. I looked yesterday. They are number 2 in running the ball, yards per game. They were behind Ole Miss, who had one more yard. I see Antoine getting in here. We'll hear a little bit of what Gaddis. I pulled 2 sound bites from his Broyles acceptance speech. We'll get to that. Here's Antoine saying Gaddis's first few years, he was just calling plays. Now he's gearing the offense toward what the players can actually do. And he has learned the art of calling the right play at the right time. Yeah, I'll buy it, Antoine. Coming in and, you win games and you come up with big plays in, whether things are clicking or whatever else. But, yeah, I'll buy that. And I'll just buy that, when you're able to have one facet of the game, in this case, the ground game that's really going, and you're able to do other things, but you got to do one thing really well, and then you're able to mold into some other things. The ironic thing, I think, coming up against Georgia is I don't think all of the things that they have done this year, the ground and pound, and then playing off of that with big plays, I don't think that they can go in with that mentality against Georgia. I think they know that. You know that. I know that. So, what are we talking about here? I think we're talking about against Georgia, coming up here in 22, 23 days, that it's going to be a different offensive attack. Josh Gaddis is, I think, going to be throwing the ball earlier, often. I think also he's going to be getting J.J. McCarthy in there to try some different things on that dog defense. That was my feel right out of the gate. I don't think it takes you don't have to be a Frank Broyles Award winner to know. You look at Georgia, Harbaugh calling them a rugged defense. They got a great front seven. And how did Alabama have some success against them? Well, they had opportunities to run. The quarterback was able to run and move around, Bryce Young, and he was really able to hit some passes in there. And then they were able to run a little bit, but I don't think Michigan goes in there thinking this is Washington's, we're going to line up and we're going to run the football. And I don't think they're going to do that. Nobody does. So I think it'll be a little bit different when they go up against when they do go up against Georgia on New Year's Eve. Here is a little bit from the Broyles Award winner. He had his acceptance speech last night as the best assistant in college football. A couple sound bites here from Josh Gaddis. I want to thank the Broyles Award site on YouTube.
I thank our players, because during our hard times, they never did lose faith in me. They never lost faith in our coaching staff. And when you have that type of love and support from your players, and they're willing to go out and do anything and everything and jump through a wall for you, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah, a very emotional and humble Josh Gaddis up there receiving that award. And he did a good job in his acceptance speech. He apologized a few times for getting so emotional. He didn't have to apologize, but maybe you apologize just so you can set yourself, so you can continue with the acceptance speech that he had. But he, his family, the position that he's in, a guy that not many minority coaches have been in the position as offensive coordinator, certainly winning the Broyles Award. None of that was lost on, as the players call him, Josh Gaddis, in that acceptance speech. Here is another soundbite from that Broyles acceptance speech. Here is some more thoughts from Josh Gaddis.
We started off great. And 2019 was amazing. And then we faced adversity in 2020. And if anyone has followed the Michigan football program, a lot of things went wrong in the past year. And when I think about over the past 12 months, I stand before you so honored, because for a lot of people out there, they didn't believe we belonged there. They didn't believe I belonged there. They didn't believe that I was the right man leading our program offensively. And I'm forever grateful for Coach Harbaugh, because he believed in me. And when you have that type of support from your head coach, that means the world.
All right. The belief in Jim Harbaugh. I go back to when Josh Gaddis was hired. I remember I went down. The coordinators were both made available. Don Brown was there first, and Michigan had given up 62 points to Ohio State. And I remember going in and thinking, all right, I'm going to ask Don Brown, what he plans on changing up, how he's, is just really sticking in his crawl and all those things. And what I remember about asking those questions to Don Brown, he said, if you're asking me if I'm going to, stop being aggressive, I'm going to be more aggressive. I'm going to, and he was like, it was not at all what I expected from Don Brown. I was expecting, yeah, man, we're going to work at it every day. We're going to try doing something different. And no, Brown was like, no, we're doubling. We're rebuying, and we're pushing all of our chips in again. We're going with the same thing. We're going to even get more aggressive. And then I remember asking Gaddis, because a lot of people thought, well, Gaddis is coming in, but really this is Jim Harbaugh's offense. Jim Harbaugh is going to be calling the plays. Jim Harbaugh is going to be, making the decisions and all this. And Gaddis, I remember asking him, and he stared at me in the eyes, and he said, look, man, Jim Harbaugh's a man of his word. He's letting me call the plays. This is my offense. And, you get somebody that close and is looking me in the eye that way. I believed him. I believed that Jim Harbaugh gave him the keys to the offense and allowed him to go out there and operate. Now I don't know, so you're there for a couple of years. Last year, nothing worked really after the first game. And then you go in. I mean, if you're a good offensive coordinator, you use what personnel you have. I mean, you might think, yeah, I want to throw the football all, every down. I want to, spread the field, throw every down, maybe mix in some backs. Man, 2021, it's high octane. It's go, all the time. And obviously that's not, what Gaddis did. I think you do. You come in with your ideas and you mold it to the personnel. And then, some of the things that are going to with an offensive staff that's around you, who he credited all the way through his award there, and your head coach, those things are going to rub off, and those things you are going to take their ideas, and you're not going to say, I'm just doing whatever I want. You're going to listen a little bit, and he did do that. A comment from Antoine. Let's see, he's got more to say about Josh Gaddis and the Michigan offense. He said we can run plays, especially on the I don't know, he's talking about the guy in the middle. We can do that to what Alabama did and tire him out. Not only that, but we're one of the few teams that run counters with what they did in the Wisconsin game plan. Yeah, you're talking about Jordan Davis. Hey, look, you mean number 99, Godzilla, 6'6", 350. I say 350, like, I'm 250. I think he weighs a little bit more than that. Yeah, I think, wearing Jordan Davis out, I saw him in that SEC championship game standing over there a couple times. You thought maybe he was hurt. He knows that he's going to be on there on the first two plays. So maybe that's when, you're throwing when they think you're going to run, and then vice versa, that kind of thing. You know what I mean, Antoine? I think that would be something that would be in order for that Alabama game. Not just thinking about that you're going to be able to grind it out on the ground against the Dogs. I'm convinced that that's not going to be what they're going to try to do. All right. So Josh Gaddis wins the Broyles Award. It's great all around. It's great for Gaddis, obviously. I mean, you get that award. It's a cool looking award. It's the top honor that you can get in your field as an assistant coach. I mean, that's it. It's the Heisman Trophy for assistants. It's everything. And Josh Gaddis wants to be a head coach in short order. He'll probably get some offers after this year. So he gets the credit. He gets the hardware. And he was awesome in his acceptance speech. And it's great for Michigan too. Of course. I mean, you look at the list of Broyles Award winners. I went over the last couple that won, and the last two, and Brady and Sark, their teams, LSU and Alabama, winning the championship. But before that, Tony Elliott at Clemson, Mike Loxley, who worked as an OC with Alabama when Josh Gaddis was there, Brent Venables, the new head coach of Oklahoma, won it back in 16, and then in 15, the new head coach of USC, the former Oklahoma coach, Lincoln Riley, won the Broyles Award. So it's a nice list there. Just look at the last 5 or 6, all those guys, household names, all, you're given the Broyles Award to assistant. Usually has a really good, not usually, they have a really good year. They distinguish themselves. And a lot of times they go on and win the championship. So there you go. Great job all around. And, nice. It's, you don't think about those things immediately. Maybe you start thinking about them the days after, but you think, wow, they beat Ohio State. Man, you get to keep going. You got another week. Big Ten championship. That's great. And now, the awards for the next 3 weeks and the college football playoff and all the Michigan talk. It all comes with it. You start realizing that, there's something to talk about every day and something to look forward to, even though that game is so far away. A lot of other different bowl games that'll get going that you start ticking off. This one. And then you start looking, you get to that bowl week where New Year's Eve isn't a Friday. You start looking at all those games on a Thursday. You don't want to work. I think that's I came away with looking at bowl week. You'd like to be off on that Monday if you're somebody that gets those weeks off and around Christmas and, the week after before New Year's. I like that. I used to think that it was a great time to work because there wasn't a lot of people around. You can go in if when you're going into work, but also the benefit of having done both. It's nice to be off, and especially if you like football. You're just hanging out, watch football all day or all week. If that's something that you like, it's there for you. The last week of 2021. There you go. I think earlier I would have said we're going into 23. They're running together. I may have said that. I go back, check the tape. I could have. Speaking of the tape, Aiden Hutchinson, he was on the Rich Eisen show yesterday. I pulled some of that audio, and Hutchinson, he's having a very busy week right here. Here he is talking about his travel plans, which, if I have this right, currently will have him in Texas. Here's Aiden Hutchinson.
Right now, life's a little bit crazy. I'm in Vegas right now at the Campbell Trophy Award, and then tomorrow got a 6 a.m. flight to Houston for the Lombardi Award, and then fly out Friday for the Heisman, and then fly out on Sunday for the Lott Trophy. So it's a big award week, and just trucking through it right now.
There he is, Aiden Hutchinson. So yeah, he was in Vegas, and now today he is in Texas for the Lombardi, and then the Heisman. And it's fun being like, I don't think Aiden Hutchinson's going to win the Heisman. He wouldn't have. He would have been close to getting my vote. I would have voted for Bryce Young, but getting to go to New York and all the cool things that those guys get to do, hanging out together, and the different places they go. I mean, it's being a finalist is great. I mean, you just have to. You can see, and they're justified somewhat being a little bit bitter. Michigan State fans, and just what it could mean just to be a finalist there. We've seen that play out over the last few days for sure. But yeah, Hutchinson, is there a part that's like you're a little bit worried, like, wow, is this going to be a distraction? And look, they get a couple of days off. Like we said, they still have 23 days. It's not like every day they're waking up and let's get to the game plan with the dogs. Let's get down there. Let's get to some training table. Let's get to practice. You get a little bit of a break here, and for Hutchinson flying all around. I mean, it's big time, and I don't think that Hutchinson's just going to be like. And listening to him, you'll hear a little bit more from him. It's not like they feel like they've reached the mountaintop and they're just kicking back now and just taking it all in and partying, and they'll just roll their helmets out there and see what happens against the dogs. They are extremely focused. And the Hutchinson, the season that he's had here and what he's been able to do, like everybody else. I remember when I knew that his dad played here. I'm old enough to remember his dad playing here, and he was fantastic right off the bat. As a freshman, and then having him come back, he broke his ankle last year in the Indiana game and the season. But to hear him come back or to have him come back and then hear him talk about the offseason and just all the goals that he had. I mean, he was saying all this stuff and how much it meant to him. And man, if he could beat Ohio State, this was all before the season. And you're listening to him, feel like me, and you say, man, that's yeah, he really has the desire. Boy, he really wants all those things. And then, of course, he got them all. And here he is. Let's hear a little bit more from Aiden Hutchinson. Here he is. Speaking of Georgia and thinking about the dogs, here's what he had to say, Aiden Hutchinson, on the Rich Eisen show about the Orange Bowl, the semifinal on New Year's Eve.
Right now, life's a little bit crazy.
Oh, no, that's the one we just heard. Here is the one on the Orange Bowl.
We all know Georgia's a good ball club. Their defense is obviously one of the best in the country, but Alabama exposed some of the chinks in the armor, so that'll be interesting. With the offense game plans, but we're all in. Everybody is all in on this team. Yes, we beat Ohio State, and yes, we won a Big Ten championship, but I don't think this group of guys, we're not done playing with each other yet, because this team is just so much fun to play with the guys and the chemistry. And, if we go out there and execute defensively and do our thing, I think, we got a great chance of winning that game.
I feel like they have a good chance at winning this game too. Hutchinson saying a great chance. You want to say a great chance? I'm all about it. 3 weeks. lay it all on the line. If they play like they have the last 2 weeks, do I think that they can beat Georgia? I do. I think they can. And you get to this point, I would have felt better about it if they were playing Cincinnati. So, like, some people, they're just like full blast Michigan any way it goes. Didn't matter if they were playing Alabama. Didn't matter if they were playing Georgia. Didn't matter if they were playing Cincinnati. They're talking about, we're going to the championship game. Doesn't matter. I would have felt better about Michigan playing Cincinnati and, being able to get to the championship game. I still feel good about their chances. I don't think that, they're going to get run over by Georgia. And I think, like I said, if they play like they did the last 2 weeks, the last 2 games, then they'll have a really good chance to go out there and beat the Dogs. Watching college football all year long, the one thing about Georgia, you follow it, you watch. I remember watching them the first week. They were the primetime game. They were taking on Clemson. And, both of those defenses were impressive. I remember the one thing about Georgia's offense, their offense was an intercept, was a pick six or a fumble six, whatever it was. I think it was a pick six. And that was pretty much it. So it was all defense. And then after that, you get, whether it's Pro Football Focus or, just people that have watched the game and can put it in some kind of context to say, hey, this looks to be the best defense in 10 years. And as the season went on, they kept saying that the statistics that they were putting up, like this was a generational defense. Georgia's defense, just giving up 7 points a game. It went up after Alabama. Was it 8? I wrote those. I've got those numbers down somewhere. I probably have them right here. It was a 6-7, I believe, going into the game against Bama, the SEC championship game, but they did get lit up. So it's up to 9.54, which is still really incredible, but not the under touchdown that they had and being called the generational defense. You get popped like they did in the face and slapped upside the head like they did. Nobody talking about it being a generational defense anymore. Is that going to be motivation for Georgia? Of course it is. Georgia was pretty much a coronation. Hey, this is the time. They got Alabama right where they want them. They got everybody right where they want them. This is going to be it for Kirby Smart. Finally, one of the assistants is going to be able to beat Nick Saban. All of those kind of things. And, of course they want to come out like Georgia. If they do lose to Michigan, it's going to be like, man, everybody had Georgia propped up there all year long, generational defense, all this thing. And then Alabama slapped them upside the head. And then in this narrative, Michigan beats them. And the Dog fans will be down there with their tails between their leg and all of that. You look back, and I picked Georgia to beat Alabama. I picked them to cover the spread. Even when they were up 10-0, there was the idea of, sure, you want to go undefeated and you don't want to get rid of Alabama because you don't want to play them and everything else, but you had such a desperate Tide team. Like, they had to win it. And you know what? Georgia didn't have to win it. They knew that. I don't know if that creeps in. I don't know how that plays psychologically. It's like, what? But if there's you got a mulligan. Does it help if you're golfing and hey, everybody gets a mulligan? It's a scramble or something. It doesn't help me. I need a lot of mulligans. I like 2 shots for every one, but could that have played into it? That's an aside. There. All right. So those are some of my thoughts. We got a prediction here from Antoine. This is an interesting one because I'm mostly anti-Wildcat. Antoine's talking about seeing Donovan Edwards in a Wildcat package with Haskins and Blake Corum back there. The one thing that you have to have if you are going to run a Wildcat, you have to have a back that is a threat to throw the ball. Check. So do I think that they could go out there with a little Donovan Edwards and with a little Donovan Edwards playing quarterback in a Wildcat and, also have both of those other backs out there? Yeah. But are you going to throw out of that, or are you just running? Are you getting the option? Maybe he runs the option with the idea of next time around, you run it again, and then you pull back and you look for somebody. I think that's I bet that Antoine is being talked about as a possibility. How many plays can you put? How many wrinkle or gadget special plays can you put in? And throwing to the tight ends, getting Michigan where, they want Cade McNamara. He throws the crossing route really good, throws down the seam really well. I mean, those are his best throws. You also have to include the packages that you're bringing in for J.J. McCarthy. I don't know. But I think that I don't know, but I think that is definitely something that's discussed, and the possibility of going with that. And it makes sense. You got a running back that the Dogs obviously know that he can throw. And so that could keep him on their toes. I like it. Antoine, you could be, if not an offensive coordinator, you could be in there on the staff, thinking about what they're going to do and what they could do. All right, we've got the recruiting spotlight coming your way here and the memorabilia minute. And for that recruiting spotlight, we just go ahead, and we got basketball still ahead here. We still got a long way to go. But let me just tell you about the Maize and Blue review, because the recruiting spotlight, we do have some excitement here for today, because there's another commitment that I can tell you about, and he is for the class of 2022, but I don't know exactly how it all works out. I do know that a week from today is signing day, and I'm looking at the message board on the Maize and Blue review. I mean, these guys are breaking down every possible player, every flip, who's coming, who's going, a daily double, how the rankings are working, just nonstop information coming your way here. TMBR, the Maize and Blue review, and you can get it right now heading into the holidays. Best time is, if you like recruiting, this week is exceptional. Up to signing day, and then right after signing day, you start working on that 2023 class, and then all the way up, all the information that you'll need against Georgia in the semifinal. Great Christmas gift for the Michigan fan in your life, and if it's you, what a better gift you can give to yourself than the Maize and Blue review. There it is for $20.21. Go to MichiganRivals.com. Promo code Rivals 2021. If you're watching it, you see all of that. New annual subscriptions only. You see that right on the crawl here if you're watching on YouTube. But if you're somebody that listens to the podcast, I want to give you, I don't want to, say any like special shout outs or anything, but I do enjoy people that listen to the podcast, me being a radio guy from back in the day. I also want to give a shout out to Q Strauss, who did leave I asked last week. I don't ask that. I always hear people that are on podcasts say, hey, review and rate and listen, and I'm thinking, people know that. Subscribe, rate, listen. That's what they always say. And I'm like, people get that. They know that. They should just do that. But if it's the way to make this continue to go on every day, getting those reviews. So if I can get that review from you, if I can get that rating from you, if I can get that subscription for you, following the Maize and Blue Review podcast, then, that's all free too. And plus, you know what? I tell you, you're driving in your car, you're tired of being inundated with commercials or complete homers or whatever it is. Pop in that podcast, and you're a Michigan fan. You got Michigan talk every day coming your way. So check that out. Do all those things. That is appreciated. All right. When it comes to the Michigan recruiting spotlight, Michigan, I find out today, they get a commitment for this class, but he was somebody from a couple years ago, a 4-star offensive lineman, and he went on a mission trip, and he was committed to, was it Virginia or Vanderbilt? One of those two schools. I think Virginia. And then, Brock Mendenhall is out, so he commits to Michigan. He's going to be part of this 22 class. I don't know how that works in the rankings or the ratings. Like Michigan has been on their way. Just a couple of weeks ago, they were at 21, and then they've just been slowly moving up, and they're all the way up to number 9. They've got 20 commits. I think it'll go to 21 because the scholarship's being used here. And this is a gigantic offensive lineman and a former 4-star. Hadn't played football in 2 years, but this is a great pickup. There's a couple of good reasons. I mean, he's very highly rated, but also when you think about just you take 2 years off of football. So when he's 20, I mean, he's going to be as old as a senior coming in with still some years here to play. So bigger, stronger, older. I like it, adding it into the mix. I don't know if he's going to be right out there playing tackle next year, but the next year or in a pinch, all those things. You can't have enough good offensive linemen out there, and he's a big one. And so he's involved in this class. His name, Andrew Gentry. So big offensive lineman. Like I said, I don't know how that works in with the ratings because he hasn't played any football. And his scholarship goes to this class, but I don't know if it actually works in with the rankings or not. I don't know. But I tell you, if it doesn't, and if you're thinking, man, I wish Michigan had a top 5 class. Everybody does. But there was only a couple of weeks ago I was saying, just give it a top 10 class. And mostly that's what I thought over the years. Like, sure, like the number 1 class, like to have nothing but 5 stars. Certainly wouldn't mind every year just having a top 5 class. That should mean great things. If you can develop half of these guys, you'll have a lot more years like this. You're going to be right there trading off with Ohio State, being in the Big Ten championship game. Might end up in the winner's circle one of these times with recruiting and developing, recruiting, all those things. But, most over the years I said, Michigan just be around 10, get in the top 10. And that's where they're at right now. And then if you don't like the ranking this year, the 2 things here that I'd point out, this one, and I don't exactly know if he is going to be involved in the rating this year, this offensive lineman Gentry that they just picked up, but he's big and highly rated. And so it's just like getting a 4-star offensive lineman, maybe better because he had 2 years off and he's that much older. You can say, well, he hasn't been practicing. It's going to take him to get up to speed. That's fair. But the other one is Ronnie Bell coming back. Now, I know those are all separate things, but getting Bell back in this wide receiving group, that was never a slam dunk for sure, at least for me. Maybe it was for you. And you separate it all, and that's how you keep your context of all of it. That's all right. I'm good with that. I'm just telling you a little bit how I'm looking at it. All right, before I get to the memorabilia minute, I wanted to talk about the basketball game last night for the Wolverines. It ends up being a lopsided 102-67 affair. Michigan was blowing them out by 19 at the half. Brandon Johns. No Musa Diabate, who's out sick, so Brandon Johns gets to start. Brandon Johns played his best game of the year. Brandon Johns played like he did last year in the NCAA tournament. And Brandon Johns, as a senior, that's what you're hoping as a Michigan basketball fan, that you're going to see a lot more games like Brandon Johns played last night, other than the ones that you saw him through, the majority of the first 8 games. So a good sign for sure. Will it continue? It's just like the 3-point shooting. The last 2 games, Michigan has shot 50% from downtown. Now, that's not sustainable, but also the previous 5 games, they were just shooting 25%. You're like, that can't happen. And the more you watch Caleb Houston, the more every time he gets it, and he has the ability that he could you want him to shoot it every time. Every time. I think Eli Brooks, when he has it, I want to see him shoot it when he's open. Caleb Houston, I want to see him shoot it every time he has it out there. He's not forcing it up from 30 feet or anything else, but, he doesn't seem like he really forces his shot. But that was a good sign. Johns and Terrence Williams, who was also really good last night for Michigan, 9 of 12 from the field, 3 of 3 from downtown, 22 points for Terrence Williams. And we've seen some flashes from Williams, but a little bit too inconsistent. Plays more like he did last night. It's going to be great news for Michigan in the Big Ten. And then I already mentioned Houston, but then Hunter Dickinson. You'd say a lot of things about how you're going to compete in the Big Ten if you're a Michigan basketball fan. Really, you need a strong 5, and then you need a bench, and you got to be able to shoot it well, and you got to be able to rebound, defend. I mean, there's so many different things, but you need your best players to be playing their best. Hunter Dickinson, you can't really say that for the majority of this year, but you started seeing that Saturday against San Diego State, and you saw it again last night. And then Caleb Houston, the kid's only 18, so it might, take a minute before he gets acclimated and is just this knockdown shooter. But these last 2 games, if he continues and, he's looked like the guy that you're hoping that he was going to be. And it's not out of the question that he's a volume knockdown 3-point shooter for the rest of the year, and that he can also put it on the floor, and that he'll limit some of his turnovers. And that would be all good news for Michigan. Point guard is still something here, Devontae Jones, but if they come in and get a rotation of Frankie Collins, Devontae Jones, Eli Brooks sometimes in there. Buffkin got a little bit of burn. A wild card for me is Zeb Jackson. The lefty out of Toledo, just sophomore. Saw him a little bit last year, and he started out the season sick. He got in there, and he made back-to-back plays. One, he drove on the baseline and then made a bounce pass from a really, really close proximity. I thought maybe he would just shovel it in there, but it still ended up being a really nice pass, and it led to an extremely easy hoop down low for Hunter Dickinson. And then the very next play, he comes down and he shoots a three. And he's big. Talking about Zeb Jackson, 6'3", but he even looks bigger than that. And what he could do when you're thinking about if he could be a point guard, if he could take some of that minute or be a scorer, it's just one of those things that we've thought about, saw a little bit last year, but hadn't seen in there very much. And now I don't think we're seeing the best from Zeb yet. He's looked very comfortable out there. And I like that part. So that's all when it comes to basketball for me. They will play again coming up Saturday, the Big Ten home opener against Minnesota. The Gophers haven't lost any player, or they haven't lost any games this year. They have lost a few players. I was looking, I was like, yeah, how about the big kid that was a transfer? I'm looking on there. No, he transferred. He transferred to Vanderbilt. They had a 7-footer last year who gave, was Hunter worked over once, but then, he stood his ground, had a really good game. Then the first loss Michigan had last year, their big center, but he transferred. And then, their big time scorer, he transferred as well and went to Texas. So there's a lot of new faces and a different team and a new coach, as well. So it's a different Gopher team than the one that we are used to, at least from the one that we saw last year. A lot of changes there for the Golden Gophers. Reminder, after every Michigan football and basketball game, I fire up this particular video and I go on and I talk about the games. So if you're somebody that's watching or listening for the first time, know that you have that available for you. And I'm also there on the Maize and Blue Review, the den, the message board, hanging out there. And every day I try to get here to you at 1:00 for a few minutes to talk about Michigan and the latest and what's going on. Today, it was Josh Gaddis. It was Aiden Hutchinson. It was a recruit. And I do have a memorabilia minute, lastly, and that is me taking 60 seconds of pulling some kind of memorabilia up and talking about it. And today, I go to a picture. And this is Chris Perry. And the thing I like about Perry here is that this was a game that Michigan beat Ohio State, Michigan getting it done. But if you look in 2003, you go to, and you just think about it, we can talk about it now because Michigan, they got the monkey off their back, but there had been few and far between victories against Ohio State since I had this picture autographed, or framed from back in the day. I should have it up on the wall. It would look pretty good. For some reason, it's just down in a box in the studio here. It would look pretty good probably on the other side of the wall. But here it is, Chris Perry, looking pretty good in this SI from 2003, getting it done, the memorabilia minute. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back here tomorrow, and we'll be that much closer to the weekend. We'll have more. I'm sure we'll have another 4 or 5 things to talk about with Michigan football, maybe another commitment, and some guests coming your way as well. So thanks for watching, and that'll do it. Good night, everybody. Have a great rest